What's going on, YouTube? Today I'll be handing out grades for the 6 coaches hired thus far in the NFL coaching cycle, so stick around and check that out next.
Hello, and welcome to the Everyday Fans Podcast, where the game belongs to all of us. No experts, no suits, just fans talking sports the way we live it every day.
What's going on, everybody? Wanted to do a video on recent coaching hires around the NFL, giving them grades. I don't have anybody right now lower than a C. I'm using a C as a basically just kind of middle, not great, not bad. I don't know. Let's see, right? With A plus being the highest, using plus, minuses, and all of that. I'm gonna start with John Harbaugh. I did a video on him separate, as he was the first one hired. I'm giving that grade an A for the Giants, just because of where it stands for both sides. If you don't know, John Harbaugh has been one of the longer tenure coaches outside of Mike Tomlin, who recently left the Steelers. So he's a guy that knows how a building needs to run, what the organization needs to have in place to be able to consistently compete and get into the postseason tournament. And that's what all teams should be fighting for: winning their division, getting into the tournament. He does have a Super Bowl win. Obviously, only won in 18 years. For some people, that's not enough. Obviously, for the Baltimore Ravens, they moved on just as recently as this year. Really, pretty much had a similar team as the last few years, but just wasn't able to get the job done. The Giants needed stability, credibility, and identity. John Harbaugh is going to bring all of those things, so that will help them compete in the NFC East, as well as be able to just make a push in the NFC through all. This is a high floor for this team, even though the roster needs help, just because of what he's going to bring. Obviously, we need to find out who his OC is going to be. He is a veteran coach, so some of kind of that new school schematic things that you see in some of these other offenses in the NFC, the Bears, the Rams, the 49ers. I don't know that you'll necessarily see that there, but nonetheless, really good hire. It's definitely a safe pick, not very risky. So we'll see how that pans out for the Giants. But this was a dysfunctional organization for a while, and they bring him in. I think they get instant stability with this hire. So I gave this grade an A. All right, next we're going to go to Kevin Stefanski, hired by the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to give this a B+. I wanted to go A-, but I'm going to hold it down a little bit, mainly because I'll start with the risk factors. Obviously, toward the end of the tenure there in Cleveland, things just seemed like it started to fall apart for him. A lot of people think this year, he was sabotaging Shador, some other things. I just think he was just kind of burnt out of this Cleveland job. The Cleveland Browns, a team that has not hired a coach yet. They won't be in this video because they haven't hired a coach yet. They're still looking for to fill that vacancy, and they're asking people to do homework. Anyway, not talking about them, keeping it with Kevin Stefanski specifically. I think he just got tired of being in Cleveland, right? Things got old. I don't think he had as much control over the roster as he wanted to. And maybe he doesn't even in Atlanta, but, it's a fresh start. Maybe he feels he can be more connected with what's happening there. As they're hiring they're bringing in a lot of people together. Just brought in Matt Ryan as president. To this point, they still have not hired a GM. So it's going to be a lot of continuity there in terms of all of these guys coming in at once, so that's a positive. From the positive side for Kevin Stefanski with a coach, and why I'm giving this a high grade, and why I feel like some people are going to be critical of that, but it's my opinion. He has a strong offensive resume, being with the Vikings for over a decade there, and working with a lot of different type of quarterbacks, including the Hall of Famer Brett Favre, Case Keenum, he's a backup now. He's never really been a career starter, but the year he started, he had a really good year with him. Obviously, he had the year with Baker Mayfield, his first year when they went 11-5, got to the playoffs, lost to the Chiefs in the division round. So the guy knows how to coach football from an offensive standpoint when he has a good ground game. In Atlanta, who do they have? Bijan Robinson. They have the young quarterback. They have a lot of young skill guys. They had a young quarterback, Michael Penix. He's coming off an injury, so who knows how much he'll be available this year. But he has a veteran quarterback, and he also went to the playoffs with Joe Flacco a few years ago, losing in the wild card round to the Texans. But Joe Flacco had a really good year. He was slinging it around, had this team competing when people thought that this team wouldn't. So Kevin Stefanski knows how to coach a team offensively and can get you to the postseason. If he works well with the GM, in the front office, and they're able to build something there in Atlanta, which again, they have the skill guys. Kirk Cousins is a quarterback that they paid. Kirk Cousins is really good when he can work the play action pass game. That's something Kevin Stefanski uses a lot in his offense, and I think it's something that will help Kirk. It'll help for the Atlanta Falcons to compete immediately, like immediate as next year for this NFC South, a division that only took 8 and 9 to get to the playoffs this year. So I'm giving this a B+ because it makes sense for both sides. It makes sense for the Atlanta Falcons to bring in a guy like this. They retained Jeff Ulbrich, the defensive coordinator. They had their best year in terms of sack this year, so the defense is staying the same. Obviously, if they can, they're going to add to that. You bring in this great offensive mind. He's a play caller. He's a head coach. He's not going anywhere. I think it's a really good hire for the Atlanta Falcons. Let's see what happens going into the offseason with this team. All right, next, the Baltimore Ravens hired Jesse Mentor. I'm giving this grade a B. First and foremost, I want to start. He doesn't have any head coaching experience, so transitioning from a coordinator to being that CEO, leader of the program, it can be a tough transition. I don't want to say the guy can do it. Maybe he'll be the best ever to do it. I mean, I doubt that, but you never know, right? So going to be because we just haven't seen it from here yet. On a positive side, well, too, it depends on who he hires on the offensive side. Obviously, he has Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry on that offense. Who is he going to bring in to be able to lead that offense that struggled last year? Lamar had probably his worst season in a long time, maybe ever in the league. Obviously, he had some injuries, but who is he going to bring in there to get that offense back on track? The defensive side of the ball will get better with this hire. From a schematic standpoint, obviously, he's going to bring in some guys. You have Metabike that was out this year, who's a really big part of that defensive line. And when you lose a guy like that, it really hurts things. So defensively, he'll get this team back going. He was a trusted internal candidate. So if you look at his coaching history, he was with John Harbaugh, from 2017 to, I think, 2020 in the defensive back room. So being there with John Harbaugh, being there during some of this time where this nucleus of team has kind of been there. He did leave for Vanderbilt in 2021, became a defensive coordinator, so got an elevated role there. After that, he went to Michigan for 2 seasons with Jim Harbaugh, won a national championship with Jim at Michigan, followed him to the Chargers when he took the Chargers job, has been there the last 2 years, and is now the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. So when I see that, and I know the type of structure the Harbaugh brothers have in their buildings, the way they think about football, the way they coach their teams, this team will have an identity. They're going to run the football with Derrick Henry. I almost guarantee that, and they're going to play sound defense. And that's what had got the Baltimore Ravens to this point last year. And then obviously, yes, you have Lamar Jackson, MVP caliber quarterback, and you work your things off of that. But this team will get back to playing a lot more sound defense than they did this past year. And when you get that going, especially in these colder months where, teams are going to want to run the football, especially in that division, more lower scoring type of games, physical impacting type of games, you need a coach like this that's going to bring in a certain style of football that he wants to run. So I think this is a B- hire, again, mainly just because we haven't seen a high upside, but that's just projection. So we'll see what he's able to do there. All right, next we got the Tennessee Titans hiring Robert Saleh. I'm giving this a B- as well. Robert Saleh was a head coach with the New York Giants. Obviously, he was with the 49ers prior to getting a head coaching job with the New York Jets. Was really good with the Niners. Came back as a defensive coordinator this past season, and with a ton of injuries. I mean, a ton of injuries to your highest paid defensive players. Still had his defense playing really good football all year long. Third, fourth string guys making plays. So schematically, this guy knows what he's doing on the defensive side. Even when he was with the Jets, this team was able to compete defensively and be in a lot of games. Now, on the opposite side of things, just like with the last guy, Jesse Mentor, who are you bringing in on the offensive side of the ball. In New York, they had issues with the quarterback position, developing young guys. You had a number 1 pick this past season in Cam Ward there. How do you develop him? Who do you bring in to make sure this guy gets everything he needs to take you guys to the next level? Tennessee, organizationally, obviously they're probably kicking themselves. They fired Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel's in the Super Bowl this year, a couple of years later with the New England Patriots. So they had a guy there, who had got him to AFC Championship, and they let him go. So bringing in, to me, a similar style coach in terms of like that defensive mindset and the type of identity he's probably going to bring to the building. Obviously, there are different guys. Offensively, I probably think, he would want to run something similar to what he's been around in terms of what Mike Shanahan runs. Can he get one of those guys and bring them in as an offensive coordinator? I'm sure he would like to. We don't know that yet. So, again, this hire to me is dependent on who he brings in as an offensive coordinator, because you have to develop a number 1 pick at quarterback. You just have to. I can't think of the kid's name that they just drafted, but was an absolute bust. Number 2 overall pick. His name is slipping my mind right now, but he was absolutely terrible. And this is your second stint at a head coaching job now. We know who you are as a defensive coordinator, and some guys are just coordinators. They're not good head coaches. So I think this has potential to be good. That's why I don't want to just put him, lower than a B in that C range. I give him a B- because I know defensively he has a mind to get this team to be competitive on the defensive side of the ball. But football is, you really got 3 phases: offense, defense, special teams. So what is he going to do with that offense? Can he have a sound special teams? And if they do that, I think the Tennessee Titans can improve on what they've been. Next, we got Jeff Hafley, Miami Dolphins, hiring the Green Bay Packers former coordinator, defensive coordinator. So this guy, head coach down at Boston College a couple of years ago, had some success there. The Green Bay Packers bring him in as a defensive coordinator. He had some success there. And now the Miami Dolphins are hiring him to be their next head coach. So another defensive-minded guy here. These guys are getting some love. Concerns, obviously, like I mentioned already, no prior head coaching experience in the NFL. So what kind of transition is that going to be? Nick Saban talks all the time how difficult it is to make the leap from head coaching in college to head coaching in the NFL. But he's been in the NFL now at least the past year. I can't remember if it's 2 years. But he was just with Green Bay, so he's been in the NFL at least a year now. And is this something that, no, 2 years now. I think this is his second year in Green Bay. So to me, I think it'll be a little bit easier transition because he's had some experience working in the NFL from a top coordinator standpoint. So what does that look like? The Dolphins roster, obviously you got Tua you've paid. How does that affect the cap? Obviously they can't get off his contract this particular year, or is this a guy they want to keep and roll with? So a lot of different things he's going to have to play around with there. But just like these other 2 guys, I expect defensively he's going to look to improve that. And if you have a strong defense, they can keep you in games. You can look at the Houston Texans this year, how far they made it with not the greatest output offensively. So interested to see how he attacks this. I'm giving this a C+ because there's a lot of question marks for me just in terms of what the Dolphins are. What are you doing at quarterback? What you have a good running back. Offensive line, I think you need some upgrades. Defensive line, I think you need some upgrades. So it'll be interesting to see how they try and attack the offseason. What are they doing? Again, just like these other defensive guys, who are you bringing in as offensive coordinator to coordinate this defense? I think there is room for improvement. Obviously, with this organization, they're hiring coaches, just like any of these other ones. C+ just because for, again, a few things. We haven't seen it at this level, and to me, there are a lot more question marks here in terms of, you got guys getting older like a Tyreek Hill. You've already paid Tua, but, he got sat toward the end of the year. So when I'm talking question marks, this is what I mean. You traded some guys toward the trade deadline. So where is this team What are they trying to accomplish here? Are they trying to blow it up? Are they just trying to, piecemeal some things together and get right back competitive? Obviously, you have the Buffalo Bills and New England, who, obviously made a surge this year. So it's going to be a tough division if, you're going that route. And that's generally the route you want to go. You want to try to win your division to advance and get better in the playoffs. So we'll see what the Miami Dolphins do, but I'm giving this a C+. I think, obviously I want to leave room for growth, but this is a guy that's had success on the defensive side of the ball. Can he make the leap and the turn to help turn his organization back into what they would like to be, which is a team that's competing in the playoffs and obviously getting toward winning the Super Bowl? Mike McCarthy was hired by the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm giving this a grade of a C, mainly because, again, where the roster is. I think they are an older roster, and that's tough to win in the NFL, especially when you don't have a quarterback spot right. Obviously, a lot of talk about Aaron Rodgers probably coming back because Mike McCarthy is there. They have a history in Green Bay. Mike McCarthy is a really good offensive guy, and he's developed younger quarterbacks. The Pittsburgh Steelers don't really have that now. You have Will Howard, who was a rookie this past year at Ohio State. Is he a guy you're going to develop? Are they going to try to draft somebody this year? This is why this is a C. It's not great. It's not terrible to me. Yes, there can be a lot of upside, but they have to hit on a lot of different things, especially in the draft and in free agency. I'm not sure in terms of their contracts what they can and can't get off of, but the Pittsburgh Steelers strive off stability. This is probably a very safe hire in terms of them kind of being where they've been. But if I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, I don't know if this is just getting us toward our ceiling. Maybe it raises the floor from an offensive standpoint of what they've been, but nothing about this just inspires me. If I was a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, that, we're going to be competing for Super Bowls within the next 2 to 3 years, right? Mike McCarthy's not a young coach. He's been around the block. I think he's got like 30-plus years of NFL experience, so that's a good thing. But Steelers fans are ready to win another Super Bowl, just like most fan bases. But, again, I think this raises their floor, but I don't know if it raises their ceiling. So, maybe this gets you another, couple of spots up in offensive categories. Defensively, again, when you have an aging roster, it's hard to determine how guys are going to play and compete from a year-to-year standpoint, So I'm giving this a C mainly because of those reasons I stated. Very safe hire. He's a guy that develops young quarterbacks, but it's not something you have right now. So since it's not in front of us, it's hard for me to grade this any higher than this. It's just, this is a neutral thing to me. I don't know that they got better. I don't think they got worse. So I'm giving this a C because of that reason. Now, remaining, we do have the Buffalo Bills, the Arizona Cardinals, Cleveland Browns, and the Las Vegas Raiders. So those 4 jobs are still open. No word as of, what's today, January 26th, that of these guys being hired. Now, when they get hired, I'll try to update a video probably on those separately. I might wait to do all of those together. But to this point, these are the grades I've got for these guys to this point. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe. We're winding down on football season. We're going to start bringing out some other content in terms of other sports. As we get closer to March Madness, we'll do that. We'll do get into some NBA more, MLB a little bit. But, it's a sports channel. I'm a sports guy. I'm an everyday fan. If you want to be one too, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.